You planted it for privacy. Grew fast, looked great, and by year 3 it had crossed the property line, cracked the neighbor's patio, and triggered a lawsuit costing $14,000. Running bamboo is not a fast fence. It is a slow catastrophe with a pleasant first year, and the nursery knew that. Tired of spending hundreds every spring on plants that become liabilities before they deliver, the commercial privacy plant industry sells what photographs well and grows fast. And the fastest growing options are frequently the ones that cost $1,000 per linear foot to remove. After reviewing hundreds of documented growing cases across USDA extension trial data, there are 13 green fences that outperform bamboo in speed, permanence, and staying exactly where you put them. None will get you sued. All will outlast any fence you could buy. Plant 7 changes how you think about privacy. Plant 11 explains why most gardeners end up with nothing but problems after 5 years. Plant 1, Thuja Green Giant. The mistake is the spacing. You buy 6 green giants, plant them 4 feet apart along the fence. Year 1, healthy green growth. Year 2, still looking good. Year 3, gaps at eye level. Each tree went vertical only, lateral branching suppressed by competition. No screening where you need it most. Right plant, wrong instruction. NC State Extension documents Thuja Green Giant, a hybrid of Thuja standaceae and Thuja plicata, growing 3 to 5 feet per year in zones 5 through 8. Fastest documented growth rate for any non-invasive evergreen screen in the eastern United States. The suppression angle. Once planted correctly, it never needs replacing. One purchase permanently ends the customer relationship, which is exactly why correct spacing never appears on the tag. Plant at 5 to 6 feet on center, mulch to 3 inches, avoid pruning for 2 years. Solid 10-foot screen in 3 growing seasons. In Zone 3 or 4, North Dakota, Manitoba, switch to Thuja occidentalis American pillar, documented hardy to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit with the same columnar form. The variety is everything. Bottom line, no faster legal privacy screen exists than Thuja Green Giant planted at the correct spacing. Plant 2. Cryptomeria japonica Yoshino. The mistake is planting it in shade. The tag says partial shade tolerant. Homeowners put it on the north side of the house. Within 2 years, the lower branches thin and the screen becomes transparent. Yoshino tolerates partial shade as a secondary condition. It performs in full sun and deteriorates in full shade. Nurseries underposition Yoshino because they lead with fully deer-resistant plants. That objection sells itself at retail. What they do not tell you, Yoshino is documented at 3 to 5 feet of annual growth in zones 5 through 9 with genuine deer resistance past year 2. Plant Lust nursery trial records show a 10-foot column in under 4 years from a 2-gallon start in full sun. Plant in full sun, space at 8 to 10 feet for individual column effect. In zones 6 through 9, Maryland through the Gulf Coast, Yoshino shifts to bronze green in winter. That is the documented cold response of this cultivar. It is not dying. It greens up completely each spring. If you want a Leyland cypress that does not collapse from ceridium canker within a decade, Cryptomeria japonica Yoshino is exactly what you plant instead. Bottom line, Yoshino outperforms Leyland on every metric that matters past year 5. Plant 3. Nellie R. Stevens Holly, Ilex X Nellie R. Stevens. The mistake is dismissing holly as a slow foundation shrub. Most retail holly is clipped to 3 feet in a parking lot and looks harmless and decorative, what the tag never says. Nellie R. Stevens is documented at 2 to 3 feet of growth per year. In zones 6 through 9, reaches 15 to 25 feet at maturity and forms a hedge so dense with armed spines that nothing penetrates it once established. Picture planting a row 6 feet apart. Year 2, 5 to 6 feet, plants beginning to merge. Year 3, 6 to 8 feet of glossy armed evergreen. Year 5, an 18-foot wall producing bright red berries October through February that birds harvest all winter. The suppression angle. Nellie Stevens is self-pollinating, never needs replacing, produces berries without a pollinator. Zero upsell opportunity. One purchase, one hedge, forever. That is not a viable retail model, which is why the technique is never communicated at point of sale. In zones 5 through 6, Ohio, Pennsylvania, switch to Ilex opaca Cedar Hill. Documented cold hardy to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit with comparable density. Bottom line, Nellie R. Stevens. Holly is the most underused privacy plant in American residential landscaping. Plant 4. Wax myrtle, Morella carifera. The mistake is planting it in shade. People hear native plant, assume special conditions, and put it in the shaded corner. Clemson University Extension documents it, growing to 15 to 20 feet at 2 feet per year in zones 7 through 10. Full sun to part shade, native from New Jersey to Florida and west to Texas. The suppression angle, wax myrtle is native, non-invasive, fixes atmospheric nitrogen in poor soils, and requires zero inputs once established. Nurseries make almost nothing from a plant needing no fertilizer, no replacement. The berries historically provided fragrant wax for bayberry candles before petroleum paraffin displaced them. Year 3 in full sun, a dense 8-foot screen smelling of bayberry after rain, producing waxy blue-gray berries that songbirds feed on all winter. For coastal gardeners in zones 8 through 10, the Carolinas through the Gulf Coast, wax myrtle handles salt spray and seasonal flooding that kills every conifer on this list. And if this kind of suppressed knowledge is reaching you for the first time, subscribe right now, because what comes next includes plants your garden center actively avoids recommending. Bottom line, Morella carifera is the plant the Southeast has ignored in favor of invasive privet for 70 years. I want to speak directly to anyone who planted a privacy hedge in good faith, trusted the tag, waited 3 seasons, and ended up with something that failed, spread into the neighbor's yard, or cost more to remove than to buy. That is real. It is not because you did anything wrong. The commercial model is built on what sells quickly and keeps you coming back. Long-term performance and invasive risk are never on the tag because they are not good for margin. Feral Garden exists specifically to close that gap. Plant 5. Eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana. The mistake is dismissing it as a weed tree. The USDA Southern Research Station documents it as the most widely distributed conifer in the eastern United States, growing 1 to 2 feet per year in zones 2 through 9, tolerating alkaline soil, drought, clay, rocky ground, salt spray, and temperatures from negative 40 to over 100 degrees. No other privacy tree on this list covers zones 2 through 9. The suppression is simple. It is free. It self-sows across every fence row and highway, median in the eastern U.S. Nurseries cannot build margin around a tree that volunteers itself county by county, so when you ask for privacy trees, you get Leyland at $40 or Thuja at $65, and the cedar in the median outside the parking lot is never mentioned. Source Juniperus virginiana. Taylor, selected for maximum columnar form and consistent density. Plant in dry, rocky, compacted conditions where nothing else has established. Year 1, a foot of growth. Year 3, a dense blue-green column producing berry-like cones that cedar waxwings harvest through winter. No spread, no invasion, no liability. Bottom line, the most underplanted privacy tree in America has been growing wild alongside every interstate you have ever driven. Plant 6. Emerald green arborvitae, Thuja occidentalis smaragd. The critical mistake is confusing it with green giant. They share the genus, share the common name, and most retail tags obscure the difference. Green giant grows 3 to 5 feet per year. Smaragd grows 6 to 12 inches per year. Planting smaragd, expecting green giant performance means waiting a decade for coverage that should take 3 years. Smaragd belongs here because of cold hardiness green giant cannot match. Smaragd is documented hardy to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, USDA Zone 3. Green giant is only reliable to Zone 5. From Minnesota through Manitoba, from Maine through Vermont, those gardeners cannot reliably grow green giant. Smaragd is their answer, and nurseries in cold zones frequently stock both under the same generic label without distinguishing cold hardiness on the tag. Plant at 3 to 4 feet on center in zones 3 through 5. Mulch heavily the first winter. Expect screening height in 5 to 6 years. That is the trade-off for surviving Zone 3 winters with a complete hedge. Smaragd holds its emerald color through snow without bronzing, which green giant cannot consistently match. Bottom line, north of Zone 5, Thuja occidentalis smaragd is the only arborvitae that reliably survives your winters. Plant 7. Skip laurel, Prunus lauriceraceus shipcaensis. This is the one that changes how you think about privacy. Skip laurel grows in shade, not tolerates it, grows in it, produces dense evergreen screening in conditions that eliminate every conifer on this list. NC State Extension documents shipcaensis performing in zones 5 through 9, tolerating full shade to full sun, growing 1 to 2 feet per year in shade and up to 3 feet in sun, with fragrant white flower spikes in spring. The critical mistake is buying it in a 1-gallon container. A 1-gallon skip laurel takes 5 to 7 years to form a meaningful screen. A 5-gallon container cuts that to 3 to 4 years. Nurseries sell the cheapest option and never explain the size differential. Picture the north side of your house. No direct sun from October through March. Nothing has survived 2 seasons there. Plant shipcaensis in a double staggered row at 3 feet spacing. Year 3. A dense glossy screen 8 feet tall producing fragrant white flowers in April. Nothing required to be in sun. In zones 7 through 9, the related cultivar autolycan stays at 4 to 5 feet, correct for under-window privacy where full-scale laurel would overwhelm. Bottom line, Prunus lauriceraceus shipcaensis is the only fast privacy hedge that performs in full shade. Plant 8. A privet warning. Multiple Ligustrum species are documented invasive across the southeastern United States. Chinese privet is on every southeastern state invasive list. Mississippi State University Extension documents it as a top 10 weed in Alabama and Georgia. Pennsylvania lists multiple privet species as noxious weeds prohibited from sale. Privet is still sold at retail throughout affected states. The mistake is not knowing which privet you are buying. Ligustrum japonicum. Texanum, waxy leaf Japanese privet, is a compact cultivar that multiple states permit because it does not produce viable seed in high volume. It grows in zones 7 through 10 as a dense evergreen hedge at 2 feet per year, documented salt and drought tolerant. The problem, it sits on shelves beside invasive species with nearly identical tags. Year 3, you discover privet seedlings in your neighbor's yard traced to your property. That is your legal liability. Request Ligustrum japonicum texanum by full cultivar name and verify against your state's current invasive list before purchasing. North of Zone 7, skip this genus entirely. The suppression is the deliberate absence of cultivar specificity that lets invasive plants hide on a legal-looking tag. Bottom line, the word Ligustrum tells you nothing. The cultivar name is the entire difference. Plant 9. Magnolia grandiflora little gem. The mistake is buying the wrong cultivar. Classic Magnolia grandiflora reaches 80 feet with a 40-foot spread. Plant it for privacy and spend 15 years watching it expand in every direction. Little Gem is a compact selection documented at 15 to 20 feet tall and 8 feet wide, growing 1 to 2 feet per year in zones 6 through 10. What makes Little Gem significant? Dense evergreen broadleaf foliage combined with fragrant flowers from May through August. 5 continuous months of bloom while providing year-round screening. The large glossy leaves absorb sound better than conifer needles, making this correct for gardens adjacent to traffic noise. Nurseries underposition it because it is slower and more expensive than arborvitae and requires more explanation to sell. In Zone 8, Charleston, Houston, Sacramento, where Leyland fails from heat stress and Thuja thins in summer drought, Little Gem thrives. Year 3, 6 to 8 feet of dense broadleaf screen with fragrant blooms. Year 8, a 15-foot magnolia wall providing privacy and 5 months of fragrance. In Zone 6, shelter from desiccating northwest winds the first 2 winters. Bottom line, Magnolia grandiflora Little Gem is the privacy hedge that also delivers 5 continuous months of fragrance. Plant 10. Inkberry holly, Ilex glabra, shamrock. The mistake is overlooking it because it is native. Native in a retail context often implies informal wildlife garden aesthetic, not structured privacy screening. Ilex glabra shamrock is documented at 5 to 8 feet tall and wide, growing in zones 3 through 10, widest cold hardiness range of any broadleaf evergreen on this list, with a naturally full globose form requiring almost no maintenance. NC State and University of Maryland Extension consistently list it as among the most adaptable native shrubs available, tolerating wet soils, dry soils, part shade, deep shade, coastal salt spray, and clay. A plant that thrives in every difficult condition never generates a replacement purchase. Year 1 in the wet shaded corner where 3 previous plants failed, Inkberry establishes without complaint. Year 3, a dense 4-foot green wall holding shape without pruning. For privacy under windows where height would block needed light, shamrock is correct. In zones 3 through 5, the entire northern United States and Canada, Inkberry is one of the only broadleaf evergreens that survives hard winters without protection. No other plant on this list covers zones 3 through 10. Bottom line, Ilex glabra shamrock is the most cold hardy broadleaf privacy option in North America. Plant 11. Leyland cypress. Included because it is the most commonly sold privacy plant in the American Southeast, and its failure pattern is exhaustively documented. NC State Cooperative Extension, Clemson University Extension, and the University of Georgia CAES Field Report all document the same trajectory. Leyland cypress is highly susceptible to ceridium canker, a fungal pathogen entering through bark cracks during drought stress that destroys hedge sections progressively. The commercial incentive to keep selling it, cheap to propagate, grows fast, photographs well, and replaces itself when it dies. Year 1, 3 feet of growth. Year 5, a 20-foot hedge. Year 7, scattered brown branches, resin oozing from bark. Ceridium canker, confirmed by extension pathology records. Year 9, trees dead, canker spreading. Replacement cost, $400 to $600 per mature tree. NC State documents this failure pattern as widespread and ongoing. The correct replacement, Cryptomeria japonica Yoshino in zones 6 through 9. Thuja green giant in zones 5 through 8. Both disease resistant. Both outperform Leyland on total cost when removal and replacement are factored across 15 years. Bottom line, Leyland cypress is the most commercially successful failure in American privacy plant history. Plant 12, American holly, Ilex opaca Jersey Princess. The mistake is treating it as slow because retail stock is small. 1 to 2 gallon containers represent 3 to 5 years of nursery production. Slow to start, not slow to finish. The USDA plants database documents Ilex opaca as native from Massachusetts to Florida and west to Texas, hardy in zones 5 through 9, reaching 40 to 50 feet at maturity with a dense pyramidal habit. The historical suppression. American holly was commercially common before the mid-20th century and displaced by faster non-native options, not because it performs worse, but because it costs more to propagate. A nursery carries 3 to 4 years of production cost in a 3-gallon holly versus 8 months in a Leyland cypress at the same price. The cultivar combination, Ilex opaca, Jersey nidus pollinator planted every 4th position with Jersey princess females between. The females produce berries October through March. Year 4 through 8, the hedge accelerates into a dense pyramid of glossy armed foliage providing privacy, wildlife habitat, and 5-month berry color. In zones 5 and colder, American holly handles winters that kill every broadleaf evergreen on this list. Bottom line, Ilex opaca planted correctly is a 5-generation privacy hedge. Plant 13. Virginia sweetspire, Itea virginica Henry's garnet. It belongs here because it works in the spot every other plant cannot. The shaded, wet, compacted corner where water stands after rain and you have killed more plants than you want to count. NC State Extension documents Itea virginica as native to the eastern United States, hardy in zones 5 through 9, tolerant of wet soils and flooding, growing 2 to 3 feet per year. The suppression angle, Henry's garnet delivers fall color, documented crimson and burgundy in RHS award trial records that gardeners associate with burning bush. Burning bush is now banned or restricted in over 20 states. Nurseries have been slow to promote Henry's garnet because it is deciduous. But in zones 6 through 9, mid-Atlantic through the Gulf Coast, it reaches 6 to 8 feet, providing a dense screen April through November. 8 months of privacy from a native shrub that thrives in your worst spot, produces fragrant white racemes in June, turns scarlet in October, and asks for nothing after year 1. Plant in groups of 3 to 5 at 4 feet spacing. In zone 5, it may die back in hard winters and regenerate completely from roots by June. Bottom line, Itea virginica. Henry's garnet works in the spot where every other plant on this list gives up. The principle behind every plant on this list, a plant that grows fast, stays where you put it, and never needs replacing permanently, ends the commercial relationship. That is why you have never been handed this list at a nursery. Write these down. Thuja green giant at 6-foot spacing. Cryptomeria japonica, Yoshino in full sun, Nellie R. Stevens, holly in zones 6 through 9, Ilex glabra, shamrock where nothing survives, Juniperus virginiana Taylor in dry rocky ground, Itea virginica, Henry's garnet in your worst wet corner. Search the cultivar name, not the common name. Like this video. Subscribe. Ring the bell. Share it with anyone about to plant running bamboo. Watch the next video right here. It covers the growing decisions most gardeners only understand after it is already too late. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from and which plant you are planting first. Hype this so it reaches the next gardener before they plant something that costs more to remove than it costs to buy. Stop buying things designed to die. Start growing things that last.